I live in South St. Louis City, South Side, in a small, cozy brick bungalow surrounded by a lot of other brick bungalows. I shop at the Target at Chippewa and Hampton. I'm married to an extraordinarily kind and hilarious man named David. I'm from a large family. My parents had 9 kids. My brothers and sisters are my best friends, and when we get together, we laugh and laugh and laugh, and we're loud, and we're unapologetically loud. I was born at St. John's Mercy Medical Center, right there at Ballas in 40. I've lived in St. Louis most of my life. I love a really great cup of coffee, especially on a brisk fall morning or an 80-degree fall morning. I will never, ever pass up a Reese's peanut butter cup. I love my life. I believe in hope. I believe in healing. In January of 2021, I started to feel physically off a little bit. Just a few strange things going on with my body, digestive issues, elevated heart rate, trouble breathing. We went to a lot of specialists. No one could pinpoint exactly what was going on, and it kept going. The physical symptoms just kept going and going and going, and I was dealing with it okay, but I felt unbearably frustrated, that I felt horrible, but the medical experts that I talked with had no idea what was going on, and they couldn't help me. In April, after 4 months of feeling so frustrated because of all of this, I stopped sleeping. And I don't mean a couple nights when I didn't have great sleep. I mean weeks and weeks and weeks of not good sleep. If you have never had chronic insomnia, you likely don't know how dark of a place it can be. And it became a very dark place for me. My insomnia quickly snowballed into major depression and extremely heightened anxiety. I was in a darker place than I ever thought possible. I was still trying to do all of my normal stuff. I swim every day, so I was still swimming. I was trying to work. I stayed connected to my family. I tried seeing the friends that I knew would hold me with love. I held on to my routine, thinking that the life that I loved before all of this nonsense would eventually reemerge. And within the routine of my everyday, I looked for light. But it just kept getting darker and darker and darker. There's a line by the Indigo Girls in a song called Closer to Find that says, "Darkness has a hunger that's insatiable." And that was how the darkness acted with me, insatiably. Every day I would wake up thinking, today is the day I am going to see the light. And then I didn't. The next day, today is the day I'm going to see the light, and I didn't. I even wore this yellow hoodie every day, thinking maybe this yellow will do something. But it didn't. Somehow the darkness got darker and darker. I stopped seeing light, but even scarier for me was that I stopped seeing my own light. A light that had taken me a long time to find and an even longer time to love. That was when I started to consider ending my life. I imagined myself living in this deep, dark pain for the rest of my life, and I could not imagine it. Now, mind you, up until this point, I had never dealt with any kind of long-term mental health condition. Certainly, having lived now for 54 years, I've had my share of episodic depression and anxiety. I had to deal with some very adult things at a non-adult age, namely being born with a disability and then losing a limb at age 21. I'm an above-knee amputee. This is a prosthetic. My disability and amputation gave me the gifts of learning to live through and with grief and extreme loneliness, but never had I had this terrible combination of insomnia, physical illness without answers, and the feeling of a forever despair. Now, in retrospect, I know that the insomnia was the real trigger for me, and now I unabashedly and relentlessly guard my sleep. And let me tell you, this is a late night for me, and I will be at that reception. Pinot Grigio, that's my choice of wine. But at that time, everything was mashed up into this one big ball of despair that grew until I thought the only way to end the darkness and the extreme despair was to end my life. Thankfully, I told my husband and my family that I was considering ending my life. And thankfully, rather than sitting on this information or denying my lived reality, they sprung into action. They shared with many of my friends that I was really struggling and needed as much love and support as they could muster, and they did. I heard from people from all stages of my life: cards, letters, texts, food, books, gifts of comfort, visits, calls. My amazing sister, Terry, moved in with us to help to keep me safe. We had a safety plan that involved almost 24-hour supervision. My family hid all of the knives and the oodles and oodles of medication I had been prescribed over the previous several months. My whole family was on suicide watch. Thank you. That year, I was hospitalized twice for mental health issues and suicidal ideation. The second time was an extended 10-day stay at what is now Mercy Hospital at Ballas Road and 40, in the behavioral health center there. During that stay, after exploring so many treatment options, my psychiatrist and the hospital psychiatrist ultimately suggested electroconvulsive therapy, more commonly known as ECT, as what felt like a last-ditch option. Why last-ditch? Well, ECT is a procedure that uses electric currents to intentionally cause a brief seizure in the brain. A documented side effect is both short-term and long-term memory loss. Like I said, at this point, we had tried everything. So many medications, so many doctors, so many therapists, so much, and nothing was helping. And yet, I still hesitated to do ECT. And there was one simple reason. It wasn't the potential memory loss, which is a known side effect. It was the stigma around it. Like a lot of people, I envisioned Jack Nicholson's character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I was afraid that I would be judged and treated differently, seen as less or not at all competent. I was afraid of what my family, my friends, my colleagues, a room full of hundreds of people I don't know, would think of me. At that point, I had two choices: try ECT, knowing that it really could be an effective treatment, or not try it because of the stigma of what other people might think, and likely sooner or later taking my own life. I made the choice to do ECT. There was not, and I did decide to quote Mel Robbins: if people are going to judge me, let them. There wasn't an immediate awakening into euphoria, but I did start to periodically feel joy. And of course, healing is not linear, so there was not a gradual trajectory of degrees of joy, but I did start to heal. Over the course of 2 months, I had 11 ECT treatments, a few inpatient, but most of them as an outpatient. The number of ECT treatments is really dependent on the severity of the depression, but 6 to 12 is a typical course range. As an outpatient, I went to Mercy Hospital at 40 in Ballas over 2 months, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a week. We left the house in the morning without having coffee, food, or even water. My husband was my driver. I would walk into the main entrance of Mercy, head to the 5th floor. I entered the heavy locked door to the ECT suite by myself. Quick prep, and then anesthesia for the 2 to 3 minute treatment that induces the seizure. I would wake up about 20 minutes later in the recovery room, enjoy some hospital coffee, which is actually very good if you've not had coffee for the morning and you love coffee. I would leave the ECT suite and find my husband in the waiting room ready to take me home. The entire thing took an hour tops. I did this 11 times. I live in South St. Louis City in a small brick bungalow surrounded by a lot of other brick bungalows. I'm married to an extraordinarily kind and hilarious man named David. I'm from a large family. My parents had 9 kids. In the fall of 2021, I had an extended hospital stay for a major mental health crisis, major depression, and anxiety, and suicidal ideation. My ultimate and life-saving treatment was ECT. And I do have some memory issues, but come on, people, give me a break. 11 ECTs, okay? In April of 2022, about 4 months after my ECT course, my niece, now 3 years old, was born. In the years that followed, 3 more babies came into our family. One of the most beautiful things in my life is the sound of 4 babies, all born after ECT, laughing and talking together. They are my sunshines. My nieces and nephews are my light. They will always be my light. I love a really great cup of coffee, especially on a brisk fall morning. I will never, ever pass up a Reese's peanut butter cup. I love my life. I believe in hope, and I believe in healing.